All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Freight Coach. My name is Chris Strawley. I am your host, and I am the Freight Coach. Before we jump into today's episode, as always, thank you guys so much for coming out and listening to this podcast. We're on an absolute roll. We're putting out content literally on the daily at this point, you guys, because at the end of the day, we just want to put education-based information out there for you guys to apply and utilize and see a meaningful difference in your businesses and lives. And this is the long form interview portion of the content that I put out there. I do my weekday live show where we break down industry headlines and actually provide some information into what a lot of that means. And then this is one-on-one interviews. Well, we have two guests on here on this one, but we're going to be talking about their experiences in the industry's best practices, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and everything else. And again, you guys, everybody who's on my show and comes on my content are transportation professionals. So if this is your first time listening, welcome. This is the real side of freight. This is brought to you by transportation professionals for transportation professionals, you guys, because we want to keep people in business. It's why I proudly fly that American flag behind me every single day, is because I'm living my American dream and I want to help each and every one of you live yours as well. I do have a small favor to ask though. If you guys aren't subscribed and you see value in what we talk about, subscribe and share the show, because that's how all of this has grown. This is all grown organically through you guys, and I appreciate all of that growing support. I got a very special guest. I got a very special guest for you guys today. These guys are gentlemen who are co-founders of a freight agency with SPI Logistics, and we're here to talk about the realities of going out on your own, building this up, and, kind of what they found and what has worked out there. And especially we're going to talk about working in a partnership, because I think a lot of people, when they do go in the business, they do have partners and everything else. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff here today. So I have Team Palm Springs here, their co-founders, Johnny Bradley and Karl O'Neal. So fellas, thank you guys so much for joining me.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having us. This is amazing.
Thank you.
No, this is great. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I'm also a member of SPI Logistics as well. That's where my freight agency is through. And we're, again, I was really excited about it, as a whole. Like I met them. I've been talking with Mike now, and, since June is when I met him out in Orlando, Florida. And then, I've been thinking about getting back in the game here for a while. And then I finally just went for it, because I feel like these last couple of years, I've just been working with people, I've essentially been like a VP of sales by hire out on my own, doing sales and operations training. And man, I just got that inevitable itch that came back, and I'm ready to get after it.
I get it. It's amazing. I always say, if you know transportation, you know it well. Either you love it or you hate it. And this is the only thing I know. I know transportation like the back of my hand. I've been doing it next to 20 years now, and it's an animal that morphs over time. I remember 20 years ago, we were using a fax machine, and the customers would write out their tenders, or you're going to pick up from here, and they'd write out the addresses and then fax it over. And I still remember the day that I said, you know what? We get more emails now than we do faxes. I don't think we need a fax line anymore, And, but everything just morphs. The products you use, the carriers, technology, the drivers as a whole. There's a lot more shady, scandalous, double brokers out there that you have to be aware of, and you have to be able to spot them so you can protect your customers. And it's a challenge every day, teaching our dispatchers, hey, check how many inspections this carrier has. They've been in business 3 months and they have bad reports, so something's wrong here. So it's a challenge. It's just a ever morphing industry.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And for me, it was always like, talking about all those little nuances, it's what, like, the evolution of things. Like, man, I used to have to send out rate confirmations via fax machine as well when I first started out. And, for me, it's just like the evolution of what this industry was. And I was talking to another friend of mine this morning, and he's like, freight used to be so simple, and now it's like, you used to be able to confidently bid out an RFP over 12 months and know that like there's a pretty solid percentage that your rate isn't going to have to change or it's going to go into a rebid.
Right.
Now with
Yeah.
technology, I mean, some of this stuff can be every 30 days.
Oh, every 7 days. It's amazing. That's why just in this day and age, I don't understand why customers are still leaning on the RFP model. It's an outdated model, in my opinion. It doesn't service the customer. The only way a broker can win at an RFP model is if he bids super high. If he bids super high, he's not going to get the freight. If he bids super low, you're going to be paying for the freight sometime in that fiscal year.
Yeah.
So it's, in my opinion, it's an outdated model. They should honestly away with RFPs. It just doesn't make sense, you know.
I think that that's eventually where it'll go. In all honesty, I don't want to like. It's good like the days of like the Excel spreadsheet RFPs. I think it's almost going to be like 7-day live quoting is kind of gonna how it's gonna scale back. And they're like, speaking of technology, like they're Emerge, they have a digital RFP that they work with now, and like that has essentially brought the RFP cycle down from like 3 months to less than 30 days of what it can get done. And I think like that's only going to get more and more refined. Where I'm excited to see like where this is going to go.
Yeah.
From a technology standpoint, because I think like at the end of the day, it's only going to elevate people in this industry, and it's going to kind of drown out a lot of the behaviors that you were alluding to out there about like the double brokers and everything else. And I mean, what do you guys, speaking of that, because that's something that's like very hot topic all the time. What have you guys compiled of like best practices to kind of sniff out if one of these people is one of the double brokers?
Every time one of my dispatchers books a load or I book a load, we check carrier 411. That's our first go-to. But we go a little bit deeper. We check what's happening is these carriers, they get a double broker note. So it's, hey, you're a double broker, we can't use you. But what they do is 30 days later, they have a brand new company with a new MC. What I make my employees do is a carrier has to have some inspections, has to have a clean record, has to have some inspections out of state. And it just kind of proves. And if you're still on the fence, what we do is we tell the driver, hey, you got to set up on Macro Point or we can't use you. And it's next to impossible for a double broker to set up on Macro Point because they can't give you the actual driver's phone number, because then we'll find out that we've been double brokered. So it's an easy way to test whether the carrier is double broker. And with SPI, they have Macro Point and Trucker Tools and all those toys installed right inside of our software. All you have to do is click a couple buttons, put the driver's phone number, and a map pulls up in our system, shows exactly where the truck is, where he's going, what his estimated time is. That's one of the cool things about SPI. In the last, I would say 5 years, SPI has spent just a ton of money on getting SPI to that next level where we don't have the backdated toys anymore. We have the latest and the greatest. The software we use can do just about anything. I was at the head office yesterday, and one of my customers, it's a smaller customer, maybe we do 5 or 10 shipments a week with them. Mm-hmm. She said, Johnny, I'd really like to know once you assign a driver, once the load's been picked up, and once the load's delivered. And, we could shoot off an email every single time. I could have a dispatcher shoot off an email and say, hey, Deborah, your load just got assigned. Hey, Deborah, your load's been picked up. But Essay in IT, he said, Johnny, it'll be automatic. Once you guys click once you book a truck, it'll automatically send an email out to the customer. Once the load's been picked up, another email will go out. He goes, you don't have to send emails anymore. And I said, really? He goes, these are the kind of tools that SPI has that the agents aren't even aware of. There's so much behind the scenes that it hasn't even been discovered that we can do. So working for SPI, it's a treat. This company just cares about the agents. spends money to make us a better company, whereas other companies are trying to save the profits. And no, we're investing in SPI to get us to that next level. It's amazing.
No, definitely. And that was, to me, it was one of the deciding factors for myself was like the current tech stack that they have and how much they've invested into that and everything. Because again, it's like, I feel like at this point, like 95% of our job as a freight broker should be automated. Like there's no need for us to be doing a lot of those things. It should be automated. And all that does is free up more time for us to focus on the one thing that matters. And that's revenue producing activities. Right. And
that's it.
That's what you need to look out for. Cause again, it's like you can bring that down to the shipper level and make their operations more efficient by partnering with you. And it just, I don't see how people look at it as anything other than an investment. It's not an expense, in my opinion. Technology is an investment and it frees up more of your time because again, it's like, I think if you polled 1,000 companies right now, 994 of them are going to say that they have had issues in hiring, or they have open roles that have been unfulfilled for like 3 months or something like that. This is how you leverage technology to, again, where it's like, it's not like you stop hiring people, but it's like, hey, your team can focus on the things that matter the most in this industry.
Right.
And that's actually building partnerships that are mutually beneficial between the carrier and us and the customer and us to help us grow. And it's like everybody wants to focus, like I think that what technology has created as it's almost like created almost like a laziness where they're like, oh, I don't need to call that driver. Well, yeah, you don't need to wear them out anymore, but like you can actually talk to the driver about them as a person now. Have you thought about doing that?
Making that relationship.
Yeah.
Making that relationship with the driver. And it's so important. And that's one of the things I try to teach these dispatchers is, you know what? Take 10 minutes out of your day, take 5 minutes out of your day. Ask the driver how he's doing. Hey, do you have any kids? Are you married? Where's home for you?
Mm-hmm.
Just give them 5 minutes of your time. That driver will do anything you ask. Hey, I need you to do a second pickup, or, they rerouted this shipment. It's going, yeah, no problem, Johnny. No problem. You always take care of me. I'm going to take care of you. That's the kind of relationships that should be built between the carrier and the dispatcher. But let me tell you, back to technology, let me tell you a little story that's happening right now with Team Palm Springs.
Mm-hmm.
So one of our larger accounts, we do 95% of the truckload for. We do a really good job. And we were offered an opportunity to bid on their LTL. When I say LTL, I mean common carrier, central transport, FedEx, all that. Everyone that's in transportation knows, it's a grinder account. You're not making a lot of money. It's a lot of work for a little amount of joy. And I was talking to the head office, and again, Essay says, Johnny, we could automate this 100% where the loads come in through EDI. Our system will automatically pick a carrier and dispatch it while we're sound asleep or while we're, at the beach with the family. The system will automatically dispatch these LTL trucks because it'll have the knowledge to do this. All you have to do is kick back, wait for it to deliver, and collect your paycheck. So this is the kind of stuff that SPI can do now, and it's amazing, So we're right in the process of bidding on this huge project. I think we're going to get it, and it's just going to be a piece of cake, easy money.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what got you guys to like, how did this partnership form? Like, I'm curious at cause like, I want to talk about entrepreneurship here for a little bit and kind of like, what was it that got you guys to like go out on your own? Cause I think like, that's another one of those questions that I'm asked a lot is it's like, how did you do it? And I always love hearing entrepreneur stories about like, what was it that made them say, you know what, I'm going to fucking do it for myself.
So this is Karl O'Neal. So what had happened was, Johnny was working for SPI and as a dispatcher, and without saying anything bad about somebody, it wasn't working out.
Yeah.
The office wasn't running well. And so he decided to go out on his own. I had just gotten laid off from my job of many years, and he asked me to come work for him for 6 months, set the office up. That's what I do. I'm the behind the scenes guy. I'm the one that sets all the processes and systems and gets everything ready. And it was in the bedroom of the house, and we started off, and I remember we would get maybe
we missed the whole Mitch thing calling us.
Oh, so what had happened was we had signed up with a different company that's no longer in business, and Mitch called, and he's Johnny had given his notice, and so Mitch, actually I don't know what his title is at SPI. He's the owner of SPI, and so he called and said, what's going on? And Johnny explained, and he says, well, why are you leaving? And he said, well, I didn't think you'd want me to stay, under the circumstances. And he says, no, of course we want you to stay. And
he said, why don't you take the California branch?
Well, yeah, why don't you do the California, and he was like, okay. So it just kind of sort of all worked together, and SPI is a family, and we've been wooed by many other companies and offered ginormous sign-on bonuses, and we're just like, nope, we're staying with SPI. But yeah, so we started with them, and I'll never forget the first week. I think we made like, I don't know, $700. And I was like, $700 times 4, that's a good amount. And then a couple weeks later, it was, 1,000, and then it was 15, and then, it just kept going higher and one of the things that we did from the beginning was we realized our mistakes.
Yeah.
What can we do to fix them? And we listened to each other, and some things worked, some things didn't, and we would have to, move on. And then it came time to hire someone, and we made some mistakes there. And then we realized, okay, this is what we're looking for. This is what we need. And this is how we want our office to run. And we're going to do everything above reproach. That was our the biggest thing that we set in place at the beginning. Everything above reproach. That way, no one can come to us and say, you cheated us. So we pay our detentions and our layovers and our,
even if we have to pay
out of pocket.
Yeah.
But that's part of that relationship building that so many people forget. And a lot of these larger companies, they step on, they don't care about the carrier. And so, or the broker that they hire, and they try to back solicit us. And luckily we have great relationships with our customers, and they call and let us know, and then we don't use them any longer. But it's trial and error, but it's having, the most important thing is when somebody says something to you that's not working, then you address it and you fix it. And that's one of the things that's missing with so many places, so many offices, and you have to be willing to hear the painful truth and just fix it and work with it,
And I think that's one of those things, you guys, that like a lot of people, like, I don't like when things go wrong, I don't advocate for like, hey, I hope my entire day gets fucked up today or anything like that. But I also understand at this point in my career that that's how your book of business will always grow, is it's how you handle those situations. Very rarely will your book of business grow by just your truck showing up on time. Like, very rarely. Like, I'm not going to say that it won't happen, but my book of business always grew when things went wrong and how I handled it and the solutions that I provided. And, to your point about paying out detention, if it got denied by a customer or something like that, because at the end of the day, I feel like no truck should have to sit for free, unless they're late for whatever reason and they're working and they know that they're working. But if they show up on time for that appointment time and they have to sit for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, they shouldn't have to worry about the money that they're going to pay. I'll pay that money. I'll work that out on the back end with my customer at that point.
Absolutely, because you're going to gain more in the long run than you lose. one of the other things that we do that I think is really, I don't know, important is our customer doesn't have to call us to tell us that there's a problem. We call them first and say, hey, carrier's running late. Hey, they're caught, they're stuck. So I'd rather people use these words so often that but I'd rather be proactive than reactive.
Yeah.
I'd rather, I don't mean it. So when it does happen in our office and the dispatcher fails or they get too busy, and I'm telling them, no, we're not too busy to let them know. It is going to work itself out in whatever way it's going to work out, but you telling them first is better than them having to tell us.
No, and that's exactly it is I do feel like the words, proactive and relationships and transparency is overplayed. And it's the only reason I say that, you guys, is because 95% of the time, nobody adheres to that. If you truly adhere to that mindset and that mentality and that strategy in business and hell, in life in general, you're going to come out on top. It's the path of most resistance is going to be the most rewarding long term. It's just everybody wants to find the easy way out of things. Like there is no fucking easy way, there is no easy button and everything else. Like you have to put in the work. You have to have the difficult conversations. You have to have accountability, because it's like the way that I see it is you got to hold yourself accountable before you can hold anybody else accountable. And, for me, you got to live that. You got to live that life.
Agreed. And what you said about the relationship and gaining more from that problem, that's truly how it happens, because the customer will call you and there'll be an issue and then you fix it, or there won't be they don't know that there's an issue, but you fixed it. Those are the things that they see. That's what they see. That's like, oh, they really care. Mm-hmm. So people forget about that relationship, and not just with your customer, but with your carrier, with the shippers, with the receivers. And one of the other things is that every night we have somebody on call, and then on the weekends, one dispatcher is assigned. That's their weekend.
Yep.
And they knew that from the beginning. And Johnny's always on call. He's if there's a problem, he'll be the first one to take it.
Which is, if you had to ask me, Johnny, why do you think your business has grown from, working out of the bedroom in your house to, I think we did 25 million in sales last year.
Hell yeah.
The answer is this. The answer is that at 11 o'clock at night, if my customer calls, and they do, I pick up that phone and they say, Johnny, I got an emergency, blah, 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 didn't pick up. I need a truck. Yeah, no problem. I will, in my underwear, walk to my home office, and I will start making calls. And I have buddies all across the U.S. Yeah. I will find her a truck. That is the difference. If you make it easy on your customers, they're going to keep calling you. You're going to be their first call. If every single time they ask you for something, the answer is yes, they're always going to come back. What I tell my salesmen, I have 3 salesmen that work for me, and they say, Johnny, they want to move auto parts, but these are specialized auto parts. And I say, well, what do we always tell the customer? We specialize in specialized auto parts. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah,
we specialize in, and then we sweat a little bit, and behind the scenes we're Googling, well, how do you ship live zebras? Well, this is how, and you become an expert super quick, and you figure it out. And if it takes you 3 days to figure out how to ship live zebras, well, that's what we do, That's what we do.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is it's like, that's that whatever it takes mentality, and that's something that I've lived by since I went into business for myself, back in 2020. It's like, I don't have a goal. Like, I have to perform or my family doesn't eat, I have to make things happen. And it's like, yes, I have my core competencies. Like, I have this is what I'm building my business off of. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to turn away revenue if I know I can handle it. It's just not going to be the 100% of my business I'm going to use the shipment of live zebras because I thought that was absolutely hilarious. If a customer comes to me and says, hey, I got a shipment of live zebras, fuck it, I'll take it. Like, just give me a little bit and I'll figure it out.
But one of the other things that we do that I don't know if it's different, but is I had a manager tell me a long time ago when there was a problem, and she would always tell me, she tried to instill in all of us, try to find a reason to say yes instead of a reason to say no. Mm-hmm. Because so many people come at it from that point of view, that situation, like, oh, it's not going to work and we can't do. No. We can. We just need to figure out a way how to make that happen.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, you know, in speaking of that, how do you continue to grow, man? Are you still out there actively cold calling and everything? Or what's some best practices that you could give out there for building a book of business for people? Because again, people from all walks of experience in this industry listen to this show. And I think that's another one of those top things that I get is, hey, how do I find shippers?
Well, one of the ways, and I firmly believe this, is everybody wants to rely on emails and, you know, waiting for that referral. And I think that, you know, people, they still want to be talked to. They still want to, it's about that relationship. And you have to, you know, one of the things that I when I do calling, I'm just let them know, listen, what can I do to make your job easier? What can I do? Well, you know, I'm really honest. Listen, I'm a squirrel trying to get a nut, you know, yeah. Let's work as a partner. And that's one of the things that people don't do is we're not competitors. We're partners. Yeah. We can do this and we can do it together. And sometimes it'll take 5 phone calls and sometimes it's 1 phone call. And we get a lot of referrals. Yeah. But mostly it's that cold calling. But before you cold call, you gotta look up who that person is, that business, what they're doing, what they're shipping, and have some knowledge so that you don't sound, you know, ignorant and or make that mistake of, oh yeah, we move that all the time. Well, who have you moved for? Oh, we moved for this company, but that company's been out of business for 10 years. You know?
Absolutely. I'm right there with you.
That brings me to, let me tell you 2 quick stories. This was a cold call that I did 10, 15 years ago. I was hungry and I would get on the phone and I said, you know, I'm going to start moving carpet. No one's moving carpet. You have to have a special carpet pole to get these rolls of carpet on there. So I start calling carpet manufacturers all over. Yep. And I was talking to this lady. I finally got through to her, and she says, "Do you move carpet now?" And I said, "Oh yeah. No, I specialize in carpet. I move carpet all the time." And she goes, "Well, who do you move carpet for?" And I said, and I was stuck because I've never moved a roll of carpet in my life. I just wanted to go after it. And I said, well, I kept seeing these commercials for this company called Carpeteria, you know, and and I said, well, I moved for Carpeteria. And she says, but Carpeteria's been out of business for 5 years. Oh, wow. So she caught me, you know, and I didn't get the account. But I will go as far as I can to get that account. Now like Karl was saying, we get a lot of referrals, meaning customers come to us. Yeah. When you get to a certain size, your name gets passed around. If I had to guess, we probably bring in 2 to 3 accounts a month. I'd say a good 2 accounts a month. And we just nurture them. Karl and I are on a different path now because we have a full book of business. Yeah. So now what we're doing is Karl is taking lead on hiring salespeople. Okay. Salespeople with books of business. He's about to take a flight out to the East Coast to woo this one broker who's got a really nice size book of business. Okay. And see if we can't make him a deal to come to Team Palm Springs. Okay. So there's a lot of different avenues. You know, you hire salesmen, just beat up those phones, you know, and then no one likes to talk about this, but know when enough is enough. You know, I've spent months to years working on a certain account that I just said I want to have, and I know this is going to be the one. And I probably wasted a good year trying to get a certain account, and it just wouldn't happen. It was a square peg and I was a round hole, and it just wasn't going to work, you know? So know when to give up and move on to another target or another customer. That's my 2 cents.
And
No,
the other thing with our business is that what we've learned and painfully have learned is that knowing who to hire and who to let go, or to let, that, and those are
That goes for customers as
and,
well.
and that goes, and it goes for customers as well. But your foundation, the people that you have on your support team, they have to be just as strong, not just when they're in the office, but when they're out of the office, and not just because they're performing in front of you. They just have to be a strong person in general. And I think and those are painful lessons, because sometimes we have a great relationship with someone, but they're just not working out.
Yeah.
And you have to, and you have to know when to let it go, or who to promote, who's doing a great job, and give them recognition. That's why we pay our dispatchers very well.
Yeah.
But in doing so, we get great performance, but we also get loyalty as well. And we provide, we pay their medical, dental. We just started a 401k. We just started a profit sharing. And people think those are hard things to do, which I was one of them, but it's not. It's actually, it's pretty easy, and it actually helps you out with your own personal taxes, your own business taxes.
Yeah.
So all of that is important, is just, and you got to listen to these people too, because if they're, say their shift isn't working out, and they just, their kids are getting out of school, you have to listen and, make those adjustments if you're able to, but the business does come first. So.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And, to your point about the knowing the customer before you call them, style situation, like I've had so many of those, like that's, to me, it's like, that's why I believe in like the specialization so much. I believe in just going after a certain customer target and really doubling down on that, because again, like people would be shocked on how much freight is actually moving out there. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to be a jack of all trades or anything like that. Like I'm all about that niche. And I think like when you invest in that, you, like to your guys' point on the referrals, that's when the referrals really, really start to roll in, is, because again, it's like, I love what you guys said about cold calling. Cause like, I'm the same way. Like, I think it's just so much more effective to just get out there and get in front of people, knowing what I know now. And the fact of it's like, hey, listen, I'm not calling to say that I can do everything. I'm calling because this is what I'm very good at. And I understand that this is a process, and I understand you're not going to give me freight today. So how about we actually set up a time to talk and get to know each other a little bit better, and see if the way that I operate aligns with what you're looking for in a service provider. Because to your guys' other point there of the, not every customer you work with is going to be a successful customer for you, because there are personality differences. There's fundamental operational differences that you can't identify unless you start doing business with them. And, like, cause I talk about this, like not all business is good business, and you need to have the confidence in yourself to be able to walk away from that stuff, as opposed to beating a dead horse and like beating yourself up over, it's like, oh, maybe they'll change. No, they're not going to change. People are set in their ways, and you need to work towards building up that customer profile that is effective, and that you can go after and build off of.
Absolutely. And the other things, it's the little things that you have to pay attention to. Like if you're going to cold call, don't call them in the morning when everybody's busy. Call them in the early afternoon, or whatever time zone they're in. And because if you're just as busy as they are in the morning, or you're busy, well, they're probably busy as well.
Yes.
So you trying to make a phone call, at the start of their business day, well, that's just not, they're going to be like, what's going on? So you just got to figure that out. I believe in having a niche, but we also have to get out of our comfort area.
Right.
we also have to get out of that and maybe we, you can have a few niches, because we move everything from gel caps to
Wind generators.
to
Yeah. When I
wind generator.
yeah, when I talk about the niche, it's just like when you're initially cold calling somebody, like as things evolve, that's one thing. But I think like when you're in that building phase of building up your book of business from scratch, it's more effective to have that one customer profile to go after, in the sense that like every open deck shipper kind of has the same problems and stuff. And it's going to help you out, identify how to talk to people. But the thing is all of that stuff is completely transferable between reefer freight, dry freight, open deck. It's just plug and play at that point.
Yeah. One of the other things that we do religiously is we send gifts. If we move our first shipment, doesn't matter if we made $1 or $50 on that one shipment. Just last month, we got an account. We're now doing the generators that sit on top of the windmills, for these wind farms.
Yep.
So when a generator goes out, what happens is a good generator gets put on one of our trucks. We huff it out there. They unload the bad generator, put the new generator up, and we take the bad one back to the shop. First shipment out of the gate, I told Karl, I said, hey, find me a toy windmill, that I could send him. And he found me one that's really cool. It lights up by the sun, or the fan rotates with the light and everything. And I packaged it up and I put a handwritten card and I said, hey, I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity. Looking forward to a long and prosperous relationship. He thought that was just the cat's meow. Or I had these accounts in Massachusetts, and it was summertime. And, I'd worked for them. Their air conditioner went out. And I said, what's going on? She said, yeah, our air conditioner went out. It's hot as hell. I hired a company to come in there and set up a stand with root beer floats. And I said, I don't want my customer having to fish their own root beer floats. I want someone there to serve root beer floats to my customer. And there's like 10 people in the office. And that afternoon they came and they set up their stand and they made root beer floats for our customers. And to this day, they still talk about it. This was 15 years ago that we did this,
Yeah.
But it's those small things that it's gonna, you're always going to be remembered, oh, that Johnny, he always goes the extra mile, or, they're always so thoughtful. This will stick. You'll become their number one and you'll get all their business. And that is basically the goal, is to get as much freight from a customer as possible,
Mm-hmm. No, I'm right. But again, it is those little things, man. Like there was times when, I got to know the shipping manager, not the shipping manager, but like the dock manager, the guy who's actually loading trucks and stuff, and got to know him pretty well at one of my customers in the past. And like, they would sometimes stay late. And it was the little things like that, where it was like the following day, dude, we just send in pizza for them and stuff. It's just like a thank you. And it's just those little things. And dude, like I even do like handwritten notes to people, just thanking them for the opportunity to work with them, because nothing's like I think at times, and maybe you guys have a different experience or thought on this. I think at times in sales in general, we take for granted what our customers actually provide for us. And we think that just because we sell a service that we're entitled to their business.
Agreed. And we're not, we're providing the service. They're paying our paychecks. A lot of times I'll be in the car with my kids and a customer will call, and I'll say, Ryan, this is your Aunt Julie. Say thank you for those shoes you're wearing. And it's a joke. We play it, but it's the truth. We wouldn't have the home we have. We wouldn't have the stuff we have if these customers didn't trust us with their product.
Yes. That's so true, you guys. That's so true. I love this. So like what's next for you guys? Like, how are you guys attacking the next, let's say 12 months? I know that we're back into what I would consider a normal freight market. How are you guys working to ensure that, like, volume's going to remain the same and everything else? Like, what's your guys' mentality going into this?
So we have an amazing team right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful and blessed for the people that we have, and I'm grateful for our salespeople. And what we're going to be working on, or I'm going to be working on, is actually bringing on more salespeople, and then increasing our the staff that we have within our office. Because a lot of people want to run with a skeleton crew, and we fell under that for a long time, where we were afraid to hire somebody else. And what I found was that if we hire more people, we get to handle more business, and then we smoothly, and we get to go after more, go after new customers.
Yeah.
Because one of the most, there's so many most important things, but communication is key. Mm-hmm. And not just it's with your team, it's with your customers, it's with the shippers, it's with the receivers, it's just with everyone that's around you. And also knowing within your organization who does specialize in an area that you don't, and who you can partner with.
Yeah.
And whether it's a long-term partnership or a short-term partnership, you have to be cognizant of those when those situations come about, and be willing to ask for help, because there'll be times when sometimes I'll be stuck.
Yeah.
And one of the great things that we have with SPI is that we do have a support team. I got real sick, and I was in the hospital for about a month, and
oh, damn.
And the office found out that we were struggling, and they had one of their people in the office help us out, and it was a great help. It was a big part of our business, but a small one that we were not ignoring, but we just didn't have the time. They just didn't have the time to get to.
Yeah.
So those things are important. It's just being able to ask for help, but also, yes, knowing when you have to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't want to admit sometimes that they need guidance, or they need some help, and even listening to another office on what their best practices are. And sometimes I agree with them, and sometimes I don't, but I can take a little piece of that one and a little piece of that one, and and then use them. And but our next big thing, that's it. So to bring on a couple more salespeople and more support staff in our office.
And I figured I'm 51 right now. Maybe I got 10 more years in this game. What my goal is eventually I'm going to give all my accounts to my sales. I'm going to split them up.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take a more managerial, is that a word?
Yeah.
Managerial role.
Managerial. I got you.
It's a big word. Too big of a word for me. And we're going to go see the country, go spend more time with the family.
Love it.
Back off a little when there's problems. I'll jump back in. But, I think that's where we're going to go with this.
Yeah. For me, I'm not so much as wanting to. I figure most many people retire and they get old real fast. I'm not looking forward to getting old real fast. But I think just realizing the changes in the market, knowing what's coming or what's possible, what's coming in our economy, realizing for these carriers, these gas prices right now, that's huge. And being empathetic to that, but also still working within best practices for the customer, what the customer wants as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes the two don't mesh. And one of the things that I try to do gently is these customers, even though they think that they know logistics and transportation, I don't think they really understand what goes. It's not just picking up the freight and delivering it. There's so much more that's involved in the appointments and the tracking and the
truck payments and
fuel. Truck payments for the carriers and fuel, and then they have home situations too, where sometimes an emergency happens and they just don't. So I like to try to gently educate them, without offending, and
Yeah.
it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, but it's an ever-changing business, and we just have to change along with it.
No, absolutely. And that part right there is a phenomenal. It's an ever-changing business, and we just have to find a solution for it, and that's the beauty of it. Dude, I appreciate your guys' time today. I'm like, thank you guys so much for sitting down and talking about the realities of the industry. And that's the thing that I feel like more information needs to be out there on, is like how this industry really is and best practices and everything else. Because like, I just want to see this industry. Like, I believe wholeheartedly, you guys, that the more we pump out the right information, it's going to elevate all of us, and it's going to drown out all those bottom feeders that give a lot of us a bad name. And that's what I'm committed to. And I know that, with you guys and the way that you guys operate, it seems like you guys are very aligned with that as well. So Karl, Johnny, thank you guys so much for joining me today. How does anybody reach out to you guys if they want to find out more?
You know what? Our website is spicalifornia.com. Yeah.
SPICalifornia.com. I appreciate it, guys. Oh, I'm sorry.
Chris, thanks so much for this opportunity.
No, thank you guys for joining me. It was great to sit down and chat with you. I'm going to have to make my way over to Palm Springs and come see you guys. We're close enough.
Listen, we got the best cocktails in town. You got to come down.
We always have an empty desk for someone to come and visit and work. So.
Oh, that's perfect. I appreciate it, fellas. And if you guys have made it this far in this episode, and if you guys saw value in what we were talking about, share the show, subscribe and share the show, because chances are, you guys, if you saw value in it, your network's going to see value in it as well. I appreciate you guys all so much, and we'll be talking to you soon.